Yeah. What's up? What's up? Just give me 1 second. All right. Namaste. Hello. Welcome. My name is Riley. I am your metaphysical guide, and today I'm going to be talking about lessons in consciousness. The title of the video is Lessons in Consciousness. And this is something I've talked about before, but I've never talked about publicly. I do talk about this quite regularly. So, whenever people kind of talk about stuff like this, they like to bring God into it, or how could God be out of it, right? God's always there, or the universe, right? And I think what happens when we do that, or when they do that, is the conversation turns very impractical for most people, to most people's minds. And I know for me, a lot of times it almost turns into a blame game from the perspective of, why do I need to learn a lesson, basically. And this is one of the things that is the most difficult, and I would say almost most unfair things in the world or in the universe, right? And the reason I say that is because for most of us, we're unaware of it, and if we're unaware of something, then it seems unfair, and it seems like things are happening to us, right? And so I kind of want to just get around this and get the idea expressed, because for me, I don't find myself on either side of the fence when it comes to judging things as good or bad, especially when it comes to this, because it's so personal, and for all of us, it's so individual, and that's the most difficult thing about it. And so what really comes down to is so a lesson in consciousness, let's just break that down for a second. So a lesson in consciousness is when an individual is basically triggered to a higher awareness through some type of catalyst, right? And that catalyst can be internal or it can be external. A lot of times it's both, right? And it can be physical, it can be mental, it can be spiritual, it can be emotional, it can be anything, or any combination of these things. And a lot of times people will equate things like this to a dark night of the soul. And what you can say is, if you've been finding yourself facing a lot of lessons in consciousness, it's most likely that you are going through a dark night of the soul. But all of that I want to leave to the side, because from my perspective, this is less of a metaphysical conversation and more of a practical awareness conversation. And that's how I like to approach it, because it's easy to check out when these conversations start going that way. And so I always like to bring things back down to earth, so that we can actually practically apply it in our lives, right? And so for me, I like to say that I was forced into consciousness. One of the ways that I was forced into consciousness was through learning the many lessons of consciousness that I had to and still have to learn as I go through my life or my incarnation, right? And so a lot of times we're not given a choice, right? And it seems like we're not given a choice. And that's because on this side of the equation, you only have half of the equation, right? It's about that simple. And so you can't see the other side of the equation. And so a lot of times, this is very much algebra more than anything, right? And so there's a lot of unknowns that we're trying to account for, and there's unknown unknowns that we don't even know about, right? And that's the things that we're unaware of. And a lot of times, that's the very thing that triggers a lesson in consciousness. So for me, this is I try not to. I spent a lot of time when I was younger trying to debate the fairness of things, the quality of things, the just the where like trying to find the justice in things. And I'm 30 years old now. I finally come around to the fact that it's just not fair, and there is no justice. Sounds shitty, but stay with me, right? Like so on this side of the veil, in this world, when you wake up in the morning, for the most part, for most of us, it seems like there's no justice, and it seems like things aren't fair, and that's the way it's been set up for us. And we have to ask, okay, well, if you believe in God, you really start have to questioning either your beliefs or what you've been taught, right? Because from what we know, and this is not what I'm saying, this is from what we know about God. I'm not saying from what we've been indoctrinated to believe, right? So I'll just take what we know about God for the most part, right? So everybody knows something generally different about God, but if you look at it from a very simplistic point of view, there's God. He created everything. He or she, they created everything. Okay, let's just stop there. Imagine you're a 5-year-old and you're a 5-year-old boy and you're down at the beach making a sandcastle, and you're done and you kick it over. There's a part of you that knows that you're kicking it over just for the fun of it, right? There's another part of you that knows that that sandcastle was going to go away anyway, right? Now imagine that you're 35 years old and you're down on the ocean making a sandcastle. First, I want you to look at the difference between the sandcastle that you make when you're 35 and the sandcastle that you make when you're 5. Second, I want you to see what you do. I want you to see when you're done making the sandcastle, what do you do? Do you walk away or do you kick it over again? Kick it over again, right? Do you kick it over? You walk away? So that's a little bit of how God approaches his creation. And I wanted you to see that because we kind of think that that everything has a purpose and that we're super important. And I think it's this delusion that really adds a lot of undue stress to our lives, right? And now I'm not saying that purpose can't be found in experience, but if you look at the equation, that's coming from the other side of the equation, from the purpose thing. Either things are made with a purpose, or things find a purpose through their experience, which they encounter because they were made, right? And so it's a different way of looking at things. And what I think it does is takes the pressure off of you to find your purpose, and to takes the pressure off of you to perform, right? And this is helpful because when it comes to situations like this, when we are being quote unquote forced into consciousness, things are going to come up that we seem to have no control of, right? And I found that if we know that a difficult thing is going to happen, then it's very likely we're going to avoid it. And it's also very likely that we're going to question the source. And if we want to believe that that difficult thing is coming from a benevolent source, we have to start questioning what it is that's sending us this thing, or that thing that's being sent towards us. And it's in this spot that a lot of us find ourselves, and we are questioning, right? And it's in that question that and it's not that an answer is found, but a new perspective can be found. Now, Einstein said that problems can't be solved from the same level of thinking that created it. It's often a low level of thinking that causes you to have to learn lessons in consciousness. And it's that low level of thinking that's looking to be risen above. Now, this is the thing, it's not necessarily coming from quote unquote God. Now, all things are connected to God, but it doesn't mean that God sends all things, right? And so you have a part of your being that is more than the part of you that shows up every day, right? It's more than the part of you that tries to get things done. And it's that part of your being that's looking to be discovered by forcing you into consciousness, because it comes to a certain point that evolution, life won't let you exist if your brain, your thinking is not evolving. It can be evolving faster, it can be evolving slow, but it will force you if your level of thinking is evolving. if you're not, if your level of thinking is not evolving, it will force it, or it will kill you. And it won't kill you. What it will do is take you out of your current circumstances and put you in another, similar to how school will handle you if you're failing in class or something like that, right? So it's not that lessons in consciousness are hard to learn. It's that you can't actually learn a lesson in consciousness, but you can have consciousness forced upon you, right? Or you can be forced into it. And a way that you can look at this is you're getting promoted for a position that you don't feel you're ready for, right? But you either got to take the position or you're getting fired, right? So it's kind of like that. A lot that happens a lot of times in the military, but it's very often in the corporate world too. People don't feel they're ready for certain things, and very often they hold themselves back from taking that leap, and then the lessons start to come more and more, and it's that thing that seems like a dark night of soul is taking over, because there's a part of this person, their psyche, their soul, their emotional body, whatever it is, that's not growing, and that's kind of holding itself back. So what's really going on is the rest of the development is going forward, and that is introducing lessons in consciousness. And so it's the thing that recognizes that a thing is happening, that a hard thing is happening, or some type of forceful thing is happening, is the very thing that's trying to be that is going to eventually be eroded away through the awareness that is gained after the completion of the lesson in consciousness. And so it's I hope that kind of makes sense. The way I see it is I think the term for it is like a turmoil or something like that, but it's basically almost like a donut, right? It's kind of like wrapping in on itself, and then eventually eroding away at the lower aspect of it, or the part that's holding it back, and then using that as part of it to bring itself to the next thing, right? So yeah, kind of maybe I can give a visual or something of that later on. But anyways, the reason I wanted to make this video is because for me personally, I've dealt with a lot of lessons in consciousness, and I've often thought that it was something that was being forced on me, right? And in a sense it is, but it's not something that gets forced on you from the outside. Now, the one thing that gets this is the way manifestation works, the way the universe works is these things will be shown to you that seem like they're from the outside, right? And so a perfect example is when I first moved into this office, not first moved in, but a couple months after I moved into this office, I was taking a nap on the couch, and I left the office door unlocked. I woke up and somebody was in the office, and they were robbing me, and they were stealing my stuff. And I was just thinking about it because I was putting my laptop in a bag, and I was like, wow, I haven't done this in a while, because I used to carry my laptop bag with me, but this laptop bag that I have now doesn't have a hook on it because my last laptop bag got stolen. And I was just bringing to mind all the things that I haven't done since that laptop bag got stolen. I'm like, wow, that really took a part of me from me. And so I had to look at, well, why did this happen? Right? And that's what brought me to understanding these are lessons in consciousness, because very clearly I realized at the time that I should not have been doing what I was doing. Now, it doesn't mean that I was doing it arrogantly or anything like that, but I knew in my depth of being, I knew that this was not the right thing to be doing at the time. Taking a nap in the middle of the day in your office is not the right thing to be doing at the time. It's a little bit lazy. It's not the worst thing ever, but it's a little bit lazy, a little bit slothful, right? And so the way my being saw that was, hey, let's give this guy something to look for, something to understand, that you really shouldn't be doing this right now, right? So through the law of attraction, I attracted somebody who was up to no good, right? Somebody who was looking for an opportunity to get one over on somebody. And I think that happens to us a lot. And we like to think that things happen to us, but we don't really understand how we create the opportunities for things to happen for us or to us, right? And so it's that part. Now, for me, if I do that now, I lock the door. If I'm gonna, for the most part, I don't kick my feet up when I'm supposed to be working, right? I go and do something else, and instead of letting myself feel exhausted. So that's what I'm kind of referring to, is it's only through these seemingly hard lessons in consciousness that we raise to higher awareness. And for the most part, when things are comfortable, for the most part, when things are good, you actually kind of lower your consciousness. You start to recede back a little bit because things are good. You enjoy, relax, and kind of go inside. But it's that very moment that we stop growing, we get complacent, and it's in that window of complacency that anything can happen. So that's all I got. If you liked that video, click the like button, share it with somebody. Thanks so much. See you next time. Bye.